Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Missflips. I hope that you guys are having an amazing holiday season, no matter what you're celebrating or who you're celebrating with. I hope that you guys are enjoying this time full of love, full of giving, and full of joy. In today's episode, we are going to be flipping this dresser into this dresser. For this guy, I got it originally for a commission, but there was a lot of stuff that went wrong with this piece that I will share throughout the video. This piece just ended up having more problems than I had anticipated, and the hardware was just a whole mess of its own. And yeah, you'll see. But anyways, without further ado, let's get flipping. So let me tell you folks, this is the piece right here. It is the piece that just keeps on giving. I got this piece off of Facebook Marketplace for $35 and it is really banged up. And like I said in the beginning, I originally got this piece for a commission, but it was just a mess of a commission. I'll tell you more about it as we go, but yeah, this piece was just in really rough shape. So initially, to try to save this piece, my client wanted it to be completely bare wood. She wanted to go with this bleached wood and gold effect. So I went ahead and started removing the screws where the old hardware was, and then gave the piece a really good clean with some vinegar and water solution and just a wet cloth. And once I got everything clean, I went ahead and sanded the entire piece down to the bare wood. The reason why we clean before we sand is we don't want any of the grease or grime that's on the surface of the piece to go through into the wood grain itself. And when you sand a dirty piece, this can actually happen. So when you sand a dirty piece, it'll like embed all that grime and dirty stuff into the wood grain and sometimes leave stains and other messy bits in your grain that you do not want, especially if you're going for a raw wood or looking to, you know, stain or whatever the case may be, go for the bleached look that I'm trying to achieve with this piece. So yeah, we want to make sure we do that first. And this paint actually came off extremely easily. I was using a 180 grit sandpaper to start off, and it was coming off like a dream. Probably one of the easiest sand jobs I've ever had, specifically because it was probably just poorly done in a really thin coat of paint. And usually, you know, you want to go in there with a lighter grit sandpaper and then work your way up to a 220 grit. And this is kind of what I did. I started at the 180 grit, as I said, and then as I started to sand away, I sanded away into this deep stain. And it was not coming up. I tried sanding, you know, the surface of it just really shallow like, and it just was a whole mess under there. It was yeah, just really gross. And as I kept sanding away, I kept sanding away more stains. And I, at the time, had absolutely no idea how to fix this, and also there was wood wormholes. It was, yeah, just not a pretty sight underneath this little surface paint job. But instead of trying to figure out a solution right then and there, I just went ahead and sanded the entire rest of the piece down, getting it down to that natural wood so that I could do the bleached effect. And I noticed, you know, as you go down a piece, as you sand it, as you inspect it and do all those things, you end up finding little problem areas, and I definitely came across a bunch of those, a little, you know, spots that I would have to repair and all that. So yeah, definitely made myself a little checklist as I went on here. But my goodness, was this wood grain pretty. Like, for all the damage that this piece had, it was beautiful underneath. Look at that wood grain, just absolutely gorgeous. And so next, we ended up vacuuming the whole piece down, getting some dust out and all the cobwebs that were inside as well, and just giving it a good clean before we started to do the bleaching process. And I started off with my vacuum and then gave it a quick wipe down with a wet cloth before I got to the repair part. So this, I found that oxalic acid is a bleaching product that you can use that is very good for removing stains, and it comes in this powder form here, or at least the one that I use does. And I made sure to follow the instructions according to what was on the container. So I mixed water and the oxalic acid according to the directions, and yes, I should be using gloves beside me, but you know, hey, what are you gonna do? Life is about, you know, living, and being protected is definitely a good thing, but you know, I just chose not to be protected. But let me tell you, protection is a good thing. Anyways, we're putting it on, we're coating, we're brushing it, you know, we want to put it on the whole surface area, that way you don't end up with one part bleached more than the other. And I figured, hey, I'm bleaching this whole thing anyway, so, you know, I might as well. And as you can see, the stain on the left went away, no problem. No problem at all. It was gone in, you know, 2 seconds. This guy, on the other hand, I scrubbed, and I scrubbed, and I scrubbed, and I scrubbed, and it was not coming off. I tried everything I could possibly imagine to get this thing up, but it was not coming up at all. And before we continue on, let me just tell you, I did all the sanding for this piece. When I start a piece, I order my hardware and then I start on the piece, right? So when I was ordering, or like anything that I have to order for a piece, I make sure I have all of those components before I start, you know, really working on the piece. And I will never do it this way again, ever, because I ordered the hardware and it took literally months for it to get here. Months and months and months and months. And it was just heartbreaking, of course. I mean, obviously, you know, when a client hires you, you want that product to be done as soon as possible. But oh my gosh, this hardware was, I ordered it off of Etsy, and obviously there was a shortage because of, you know, pandemic and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, it was just a whole mess, and the hardware wasn't coming in when it said it was delivered, and there was just like a bunch of confusion, and I was keeping my client up to date as much as I could. And then we finally decided to order new hardware, and it was gonna be here in a couple of days. So then I started, you know, working on the piece again, and I found that stain, and I was like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And so obviously I told my client, like, look, there's this stain, and I know the hardware had a mix up and everything, and I apologized profusely. And unfortunately, she didn't take it very well. I don't blame her. I understand the frustration. It was definitely a learning curve for me on how I will order things. I will always, always, always start working on a piece before I get everything ordered, just to make sure that we're all good. And no, to answer your question, I do not have glue syringes. I definitely need to invest in some. So yeah, we're making do with what we got. But yeah, anyways, back to the story. Yeah, the woman was very displeased, and rightfully so. And so she decided to not purchase the piece, which, of course, again, I completely understood. But yeah, it was just a whole mess of a problem, and this piece definitely kept me going through the ringer with all the repairs and the stain and everything. Yeah, so I had to figure out what to do. I proceeded, since I had, completely taken off the whole top layer of paint, I proceeded to, do the bleaching, do the bleached look that she wanted to do, because I thought, I haven't really done many bleached pieces, and so why not just continue the vibe. So I did that. I made all the little repairs, plugged up all the holes, and prepared it for new hardware, and went over the entire piece with white wax. And I may have ordered this wrong as far as like my process goes. Because I was just, trying to figure out what to do with this piece as I was going. It was a completely different direction that I would have taken it in. But we made do with the style that was given to us, and I kind of wanted to just roll with the punches. So I was ordering it weird, and my whole process was off. Anyways, I'm rambling now and repeating myself. But yeah, so we buffed all of the wax once we put it on, making sure to get up all of that excess paint. And just a little tip here, if you're looking to store wax brushes, make sure you get the majority of the wax off of your brush, be this with a paper towel or a rag or something, and then put it in a plastic bag and really make sure that you have most of the air out of the bag, and then seal it up and make sure that it's not unsealed or anything, no air's getting in there, and then you're good to go. You can reuse that brush as many times as you want. So once I was done making this all bleached and pretty, I have seen a lot of stuff on Instagram where there's these really cool, kind of just pastel-y color palettes, and then like flowers and circles and leaves, and I don't know, they're just really cool patterns, and I felt inspired by them and by the style, so I went ahead and tried it. I've never done anything like this before, kind of like this abstract, nature-y type of stuff, and so I thought I would give it a go. So I'm tracing I'm getting creative here because I didn't have any string or anything like that, and I didn't want to nail a hole into the piece to make myself a perfect circle. So I just took some old cardboard that happened to have holes in it and made myself a circle to paint in, and yeah, to kind of give me a guide. And we're definitely covering up this bad stain here with some paint, so I went ahead and just did a big circle around that guy, making it much easier for myself. And we're using the all-in-one paint by Melange, as I've been using in most of my videos lately. And honestly, I really do prefer chalk paint. If I'm being very honest, I like the texture of chalk paint. I like working with it more, but I haven't found a brand that had the exact color palette that I wanted for this piece, nor any other pieces that I've been working on recently. My color palette has been very specific, and Melange has just been really kind of coming in clutch with the palette recently. But yeah, so I'm going in and painting my first leaf pattern here, and I'm doing it in this really cute kind of bluish tone, and just making sure to get all of my leaves. I went in there with a pencil first and made sure to do a little outline of the design that I wanted, and then went ahead and painted inside that design. And don't mind the yellow paint here. I bought some old yellow paint a while ago, and it ended up being really watery even after I shook it a lot. And it just was very, very thin, and I just took that as a sign that I needed to go out and buy some new paint. So again, we're using Melange, and it is, I'll list all the colors in the description below, by the way, if you guys want to go shop these colors. If you guys see anything that you like, feel free to check out the description. And we're just painting a little circle guy in this burnt orange color that I absolutely love. It is stunning and just so rich and beautiful and creamy and nice. And we're finally getting rid of this atrocious stain here in the same color with another beautiful circle. So when you're painting circles or large spaces like this, I recommend using a large brush for the center and then a little tiny like detail brush that you feel like you can have the most control in for your edges. I find that this works best to get a lot of coverage and make it go by a lot faster. for my leafy guy here, I decided I wanted a little bit more depth in the piece, so I went ahead and just got a little bit of a darker tone. It's still got that, you know, bluish feel, but it's now got a little bit of like green in there, and just a slightly darker shade just to give it a little bit more of like a dimension. And I just added the right side shading on all of my leaves just to give it like a little cool kind of lighting effect. And I did this around all the edges of all the leaves, including the stem. And yeah, I love the way that this turned out. It actually looks way better than I thought it would. A heads up, I have never ever used a pen like this before, like a paint pen or like a fat pen like this. This is my very, very first time, and it was definitely a learning curve. I felt like I had zero control over the lines that I was making, and as I was doing it, I felt like I had completely ruined what I had done, and I was a little panicked. I'm gonna be honest. I was afraid that I just completely just destroyed every single ounce of work that I had put into this piece. But like everything, patience. Have patience with yourself. Believe in yourself. Trust yourself. Trust your vision. Trust your ability. And just take your time. And honestly, it's all in the details. Like once I went in with the fat brush, I also went in with like a little detailed brush and made sure to get the edges clean and sharp. And yeah, just trust in yourself. It'll all work out, believe me. And I actually really ended up liking kind of like the messiness of this vibe. I liked kind of like the roughness of it. And I made sure not to follow the stem exactly. I didn't want it to be like matchy on the, like right on the outline of the stem or of any of my designs actually. So I just went in with some rough lines all over the place, kind of not sticking to any shape or form, just kind of giving the essence of the leaf that's underneath it. And I think that that look was really accomplished. And again, I went in there with a thinner pen after and just touched up all my lines and made sure that all my details were exactly how I wanted them to be. And I thickened up the line in some places and made sure that all of my lines lined up, because with these grooves that were on the drawers, it made it extremely challenging. I have seen this design so many times on Instagram, but every single time I've seen the design, it was never on a piece of furniture. It was always on like a wall, just a flat, simple surface. And I can see now why that is done, because my God, it was so challenging to accomplish that same look and vibe on a piece of furniture, especially one that had this many grooves on it. It was very challenging. But when it comes to, you know, your own designs and whatnot, you can, I kind of just went with the flow and added lines where I thought needed it. I decided that my leaves needed a little bit of a design on them, so I went in there and added them. And you know, this is where your own element of creativity comes in and your own taste and all that sort of stuff. So if you ever, you know, decide to do something like this, just go with your gut, man. Do what feels right, and let the flow go. And yeah. And so once all of that was good to go, I went ahead and started drilling my holes for my hardware. I plugged up all these holes previously because we weren't sure on what hardware we were going to use, but I ended up doing this because, you know, it was my choice now. And this is the finished product. Alright guys, so that is the flip. Thank you so much for watching this video. I was so inspired by these designs that I had been seeing all over my Instagram, and so I just really wanted to do something with those designs myself, and I decided to add it to this piece because, you know, there were some things that I had to cover up, like that gross black stain and everything, and those little holes in the piece from the woodworms and all that sort of stuff. So I needed to cover it up, but I didn't want to cover up the whole entire piece with paint. So I decided to go with that design, and I think that it came out awesome. I am really happy with it, and honestly, I might be doing some of those designs on my own walls in my house. Let's talk prices. I got this piece for $35, and then for all of the paint, I spent about $60 on the paint, but I only spent probably about $15 worth of paint on this piece, so we didn't spend that much on paint at all. And then for the hardware, I ended up spending about $45. So all in all, I actually only spent about $100 on this piece, which is pretty good. And I plan on listing it on Facebook Marketplace for about $600. We'll see. I haven't really decided on the price yet. But yeah, if you guys want to stay tuned to see how much it sold for, make sure to go over and follow my Instagram page where I keep a listed document story on what I have sold, how much I sold it for, and what I made in profits. So make sure to go and head over there and give me a follow so you can stay tuned for that. And also make sure to like and subscribe because I have some awesome flips for you, especially this next one coming up. My New Year's Eve is a Gatsby themed piece, Art Deco, all over the place. It is going to be amazing, so make sure to stay tuned for that. And yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your holiday season. Happy New Year, and yeah, stay flippin', guys.